I'm Cally Parkinson. I have been involved with Reveal since the beginning, since 2004 when Willow Creek did the first survey. I now work at Reveal full-time and have the privilege of talking to pastors who are processing their Reveal results. Reveal is now a database of about 1,100 churches, about 300,000 people in total. And what's interesting about what we see with the Reveal churches, and this is related to the topic I'm going to talk about now, is that they aren't all alike. This isn't going to surprise any pastor who's listening to this. They are very different. We actually at Reveal have an ability to sort of grade, if you will, church congregations in terms of how healthy they are from a spiritual standpoint. We use a dozen of the most significant catalysts for growth that we know of through the Reveal work, and we just rate churches based on those catalysts. And what we find is sort of a bell-shaped curve. Those of you who remember your statistics classes will remember that. Basically, there are some people on the end, some churches on one end, some churches on another, and there are a whole bunch of churches in the middle. And in fact, there are about a third of our churches we would call sort of average churches. And by that I mean it's not the church itself, it's the people within the church, that their spiritual health is sort of average. And I had the opportunity in January to work with the church, work directly with its leadership team, and this church was average. And they weren't happy about being average. In fact, it really grated on the spirit of the executive pastor. They really thought their church ought to be doing a lot better. And so they were wrestling with this over 2 days. And they would break up into groups, and they'd talk strategies and tactics, and they were processing their Reveal results. And at the end, they were all in their groups, and they were sort of they were talking about what their recommendations were from their groups to the whole audience and saying, okay, this is what we think we ought to do. And you know, their knee-jerk reaction, because their evangelism was a little weak, was to say, we need more evangelism training. We need to really inspire the congregation and equip them with different evangelistic tools, and that's what we need to do. And actually, another group came up with something that also showed up as an opportunity, which is our people want a spiritual pathway. They want to know what their next steps are. We have to get very concrete and have a really clear spiritual pathway for our people. So evangelism, spiritual pathway. And then this other group said, you know what? I don't think we should do either of those things, because I think the biggest problem that we have in our average church is us. And by us, he sort of looked at the leadership team. And the senior pastor and the executive pastor, who were not in this group, looked at them and said, what are you talking about? And they said, I think our spiritual challenge factor and our spiritual hearts need to be stronger. We need to collectively, corporately come together as a team and make sure that we're as on fire spiritually as we want our people to be. And there was a bit of conflict in the conversation that followed. There was a little bit of, the possible tendency for the executive pastor to think they were taking a little bit of personal exception to some of the leadership at the church. But in truth, what they were doing was reflecting a hypothesis that we have at Reveal, which is that the average church, and again, a lot of churches are there, the antidote to an average church isn't another program, and it isn't a pathway. The antidote for an average church is to look at the hearts of the leader, because the hearts of the leader are kind of where it all starts. These people in this church loved their church. They respected and loved its leadership. They would follow its leadership anywhere. But the leadership themselves decided they needed a heart check. And at Reveal, we think that was a pretty courageous step to take.